Yeah, so I was thinking about one video I deleted for some reason when I went through and decided some stuff was not good enough or mediocre, but like totally would have been worth keeping to show some process. Anyway, here's a program I wrote back in 1998 actually, and I've been reading about I've been reading Linux application development. It was like an Addison Wesley publication. Ended up writing this program in 98. And I noticed that the RM utility in Unix machines, BSD, Linux, whatever, Solaris, they didn't have the ability to remove a file based on only knowing an inode serial number. And more on that later. So basically I made conditional compiles for BSD and BSDI, or FreeBSD. And BSDI also compiled with this conditional, this if-def. So, and then here you have in main, you notice that there's a pointer to a structure or an array of structures where you have directory entry, direct, pointer to each entry, and then goes through and stats each file in that structure. And then it returns an integer, which is inode serial number. So unlink is the actual syscall that removes a file. It removes its inode from the structure. And then it's deleted. So once it's removed from the structure, now it's important to understand that according to the Peter Gutman's paper a number of years back, that data is still there. So anyway, yeah. So we handled error codes here, but yeah, we loop through the directory, like I said, statting each file till we find our magic serial number. So we read the directory, we read each entry, and there's a pointer to the next entry in the structure. Buffer for statting the file. Stat's another syscall that handles files kernel-wise, actually the way the kernel sees the files. And then here's our return errors. And we close the directory, we close that structure and return 0 if there's no errors. So go ahead and compile this with GCC. Get some warnings now. Now let's go and let's make a file here. So let's touch some random file like random file blah blah blah, and then put some spaces in there. So, you know, on modern shells, spaces and things like that are accounted for. We can still get characters that are hard to delete. That might not be the best example because spaces are. But now let's do something. You know, most people that are familiar with the command line know about ls for file listings. And they know about ls with a long listing, ls with long and all attributes. You know, like we could do lsal or la on bin, binary. And we find that it's been linked to user bin. So there's a lot of files in there. Now if we do an ls-ali, what do we get? So we notice here, actually let's do that. Let's put the I here on user bins. We've got a lot of files in this listing. And see, there's a bunch of inode numbers. Let's do it. Let's do an -i on our temp directory, and we see our file there. So let's do an so we'll do RMI. Well, first, again, let's do an ls. Oops, my bad. Wasn't even on the home row. ls-ali. So our file is 3072. So we'll use remove based on inode, RMI 3072, and then do an ls ALI, and now we see it was right, and now we see 3072 is missing. So yeah, I wrote that in 98, and I felt like that was something I wrote after learning C that was somewhat useful, and I wish that had been included in the RM utility. But if you go down through here, you'll notice, if you read this manual page, you will notice that, as far as I know, at least back when, or at least all the years I've used it, there was not the ability to remove based on only knowing the inode serial number. So there you have it. There's a program where you can do it in about a page of C source. Have fun.